Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we of course talk about horror movies. And in this episode, we are going to talk about The Devil's Candy,
Ooh.
which is a which is a film which actually was completed in 2015 and has been doing the festival circuits since. But it just recently got a release to the public. You can get it VOD. Here we are. We're going to talk about it. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers. You know the drill. Tim.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy The Devil's Candy? Actually, before you answer that, I'll tell you, I didn't realise this before I watched it, but now that I've got it up, like I've got the info up afterwards. This is Sean Byrne directed this, who also directed The Loved Ones, which is an Australian movie from 2008, I think, I want to say. It's pretty good, that movie, actually.
I saw that, but I've never. I saw that he directed The Loved Ones, but I've never actually seen that. But that seems to be a pretty, popular, well-received movie.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't want to make any definitive statements. I'm sure we'll do it for the show at some point, and I can revisit it. But I remember liking it. At the time. But yeah, he directed this. So Tim, this is kind of a family moves into a house, creepy stuff's going on, and the previous son of the family who lived here is possibly psychotic, but also possibly hearing Satan talk to him and murdering people for Satan. So that's the premise of the movie. And of course he interacts with the new family. He tries to come back home, is kind of what happens. Tim, did you enjoy The Devil's Candy?
I enjoy the way you say it for some reason, but
The Devil's Candy.
I did enjoy it. I wouldn't say that I loved it. Like, this isn't something to write home about or scream about. Like,
So wait, Tim, you're saying it's not one of The Loved Ones?
Fair enough. No, I would not say that it is. It's certainly an enjoyable movie. I can't really say that there's that much technically bad about it, and I actually thought it was really well directed. That's what stood out to me the most. I thought there was a lot of really cool shots in it, but the story didn't really do much for me. That's what kind of falls flat.
I'm kind of with you for the most part. I think we're at the same conclusion, although I don't know if I got there the same way, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I agree the direction's mostly good. There's some good chilling moments, particularly with the previous son, whose name is Ray. His stuff when he's doing evil stuff, but the way he does it like a child, he doesn't really. It's like he's been told to do it, so he just does it without thinking about it. That stuff's pretty creepy and pretty chilling. That's pretty cool. The actual plot with the family, though, because there's mother, father, daughter, and they're a bit. He's an artist. The dad's an artist, Jesse, and he's a sort of metalhead, and his daughter's a metalhead as a result. His wife does not appear to be a metalhead. She seems like she's from a different family, but that's okay. They seem happy. She's actually played by Sherry Appleby, who I didn't know that name admittedly, but I recognised her. So I was like, who is this? I know her face from something, and I looked her up. She was actually. Do you remember the show Roswell?
Yeah, I never watched it, but I remember it.
Yeah, late 90s, early 2000s for a couple of seasons. She was in that. She was a lead character in that. That's what I knew. I only watched a little bit of it, but I remembered her face from that.
Interesting.
But now, of course, she's not playing a teenager like she was in that. She's now playing the teenager's mother. So, aging. And I'm not making a dig at her age. I'm saying I feel old because people who were playing admittedly, I was 10 when that show started, but still, it feels weird that people who were once playing the teenagers are now the teenagers' parents, and it makes me feel old because I feel like I'm aging. But so the plot with the family, so they move into this new house, which is where Ray's parents lived, and the dad, Jesse, starts hearing voices as he's painting, and it forces him to paint things that he doesn't mean to paint, and he sort of loses time as he paints, and all that plot stuff, it felt really underdeveloped. The movie's only 79 minutes long. It's a really short movie.
Yeah, it's really short. That I thought that stuff was interesting, but ultimately I felt like it didn't go anywhere.
It went one place, and where it went was fine, and I liked the paintings themselves. They were actually really cool. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what artist they got to do all the paintings that the character's supposed to be doing, but they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And the characters are likable enough. I thought the daughter was likable. There was a couple of
Yeah.
moments where she sort of overdid her acting a little bit. Because there was one moment where her mother asks her, like, her first, because she goes to a new school because they've moved house, and her mother asks her, like, how was your first day? And she does this, like, long, silent, sort of blank look. And I thought she was going to, like, pretend it was horrible and say it was fine. Like, I thought she was being sarcastic because she was so overdoing it. But then she eventually just went, it was terrible, or it was the worst thing ever. And she played it straight, and I'm like, oh, right, you were just being completely straight with that, okay. So there's a couple of moments like that, but mostly she was likable, and having a father-daughter who are both metalheads was kind of unique, I guess. Like, I don't feel I've seen that in a horror movie.
Yeah, I did feel like there was probably a lot of like metal stuff that metal fans might like in this. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of metal, so I feel like it was a little lost on me. Like it's not to a point where it's like I don't know what's going on or anything, but stuff that I'm like, oh sure, like some of this music stuff, or maybe people might enjoy, but yeah, didn't do much for me.
I feel like there might be some small references to stuff if you're like a proper and I like some metal, but not necessarily this classic, because this is like Metallica and stuff like that. So that's sort of like proper metal from the 80s that like all the long haired nut jobs all love. And I say that I say that with love. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's very very that Mega Death, is that one of them?
That sounds right.
That sounds right.
There was some stuff I liked though, like when they were driving to school in the car and like they, both start like kind of head banging, like him and the daughter, and the wife's just kind of looking at him. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cute, fun scene.
Yeah. Yeah, mother's just like, why did you have to take after him? She couldn't have taken after me. But no, I mean, I thought they were all fine. If anything, it just felt like the plot with having these paintings and the hearing voices felt kind of weird and rushed. Even the first scene where it happens, he kind of comes home and he just like starts hearing voices and he immediately goes into a trance, and it just felt like there was no build up to it. It just suddenly started happening.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an issue. So ultimately, I kind of agree. It's kind of like it's a decent movie. I think it's got some really good moments. Like I say, most of the stuff with Ray was pretty good, because something about him just acting like a child but doing these really awful things because he's been told by like essentially Satan to do them is proper creepy. It is proper disturbing. There's a lot of nice visuals with him, and I think the last, I'm not going to actually, let me phrase this properly, the last 20 minutes barring the last 5 are really good, and I'll tell you in spoilers what I mean by that.
Okay, interesting.
But I'll just say there's a visual effect that's really bad for a big part of the final sort of moments that really took me out of it.
Yeah, I would say I had that complaint as well. Just the ending scene in general. Like I thought up until till then the rest of the movie looked pretty cool. But then that last part, there's just a few shots I'm kind of like, it's maybe could have used another round or a little bit more budget or something.
I think most movies would like a little more budget.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I want to meet the director who says, no, I don't want any more budget. That's fine. It's fine. We'll make it. But I'm kind of there. It's I don't regret watching it. I had a decent enough time. Like I say, there's some good moments in it, but I think ultimately it kind of, I don't want to sound too negative because I actually did enjoy it as well. Like I feel like I'm sounding more negative than I want to be, because it does have some good moments. It is nice and quick. It's fairly well paced. If anything, it could maybe even slow down a little bit, especially with the family stuff. But otherwise, like I say, it's got some really genuinely creepy moments. And then once it does ramp up for the last like third of the movie, it does feel like proper non-stop like terror.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And what I would say is, like, in terms of recommending it or something, what I'd ultimately come down to is if you get the chance to watch it, like, definitely go ahead. Like, it's not something that you need to go out of your way. Like, I mean, it's pretty easy to find, it's like on like most, like all the VOD platforms and stuff. But, if you don't do that, like, you don't need to go crazy trying to find it streaming somewhere or pay a bunch of money to see it. You know, if you get the chance to watch it, it's good.
I think what I will say is that the whole like Satan's talking to him, there's voices being heard. That part of the movie is the part that's really underdeveloped because it doesn't really amount to much.
Yeah.
Like you feel like, oh, he's going to, you know, explain more of it, or not explain, but show more of a goal. Like what does he believe Satan wants? If he is really hearing, and we know he's really hearing voices because Jesse starts hearing voices, so we know there's really voices going on. So like there's no ambiguity in that sense.
Yeah.
But it just kind of like, it feels like, oh, this is just the reason why he's killing people, and it's just that, and that's all it is. And I mean, and I guess that works. It's just, it feels like it was building up to more, and it never did, because and we'll get to in spoilers what it actually builds up to. We'll talk about in spoilers, which I guess we're a bit ready to go into. I feel like we've talked about sort of spoiler free of what we can. So cast is mostly good, by the way. I mentioned a couple of little things with the daughter, but for the most part, the family and Ray are both good.
Yeah, and I really liked the dad, Jesse. I thought the actor that played him, was that Ethan Embry?
Yes.
I thought he was really good. I thought he's very likable, even though he's kind of like a messing up throughout. Joe,
he had going for him that was really bugging me. You know that complaint we always have with Rob Zombie movies where the characters make you feel like you want to shower? Yeah. He wasn't the exact same way because it was because he was constantly painting, but he was always so covered in paint and sweaty that it just made me feel, oh, I want to shower. Go for a shower, you asshole. Like, it made me feel icky.
It's just one of those weird things where looking at him, I can understand he might be in a rush, so he might be painting and then need to stop and go do something. But when I look at that, I'm like, oh man, like you wouldn't like wash your hands, first before going out and running an errand or something.
I think because he's just used to being covered in paint, so he just doesn't care. I think that's probably a fairly accurate thing for a lot of painters, but
sure,
it just I don't know. I was like, I need to be clean. I need to wash my hands and get paint off me, and so yeah, let's get into spoilers then. So full spoilers from this point on for The Devil's Candy. So I want to jump to the end. I want to sort of start at the end and kind of talk about where the voices lead to, because I think it's the biggest thing where it's kind of weak. So basically, the voices that Jesse's hearing turn out to not be Satan at the end. At the end, it turns out the voices he was hearing are either from God or from the children that Ray's been killing. The whole idea is that he's been killing children because it's the devil's candy. That's where the name of the film comes from. That's why he's killing kids. And basically, he hears the voices again at the end of the movie, and he like wanders out to this pit where we've seen Ray bury some suitcases, and that's where obviously there's kids in the suitcases. And we see him find them, and he looks up, and like, light comes from the sky and hits him in the face, and that's when it cuts to the title. And okay, sure, but it just feels really thin, like, so it's because it does that whole thing like some horror movies like to do, where it's like, we'll cut to the previous scenes where the clues for this twist were, and it cuts back to him saying, oh, I'm painting these things because these children are inside me and they want to get out, and they're like, I'm supposed to be impressed, but okay.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't know if I can like express it that well, but I guess it felt a little underwhelming. Like when you get to it, you're like, oh, okay, but it's not like a big crazy revelation where you're like, oh my god, like
it needed more bite. Like it was too thin. Like, because one of the things I thought throughout the movie, because when I got the first hint, when he said the thing about the kids wanting to get out, I thought, okay, maybe it's not the same voice, maybe it is like, God or the opposite of Satan, whatever that may be, the forces of good. And I thought, well, is this maybe training him to be a protector of the kids? And it was going to be more about, he's going to have to protect his daughter in a sort of like battle of like good versus evil, like he's going to protect all the kids now. And I thought they were going to set up like a more mythology based thing at the end. I thought that's where it was either that or something else, but something with a bit more weight to it that justified all the mystery, because it wasn't really mystery. Like, you could have literally just avoided all of that stuff and just had him like see a light or something at the end, and it would have been the same effect.
I wonder if it would have been better if they did that a little earlier, like after he had kind of gotten shot and was lying on the floor, and which I actually kind of thought, oh, he might be dead. Like,
Well, that's the stuff I like though. Is like when Ray was coming at the house, and when he sneaks in the house the first time, and he just lies in bed with the daughter, and he's just looking at her.
Yeah, that was probably the best part in the movie. That was super creepy. And then like
it's just waiting for her eyes to open, and she's going to freak out as soon as she opens her eyes. It's just it's super super disturbing. Or even like trapping the deputy between the two cars.
Oh right, yeah.
And just walking up and banging her head with a rock, like just super like proper good like creepy killing stuff. Like that stuff's the most effective in the movie, and that stuff's really good.
Definitely.
But yeah, like you say, like you could have done this earlier, like maybe before, like when he gets shot, maybe if he found out before he saved his daughter that he has to protect the kids, and this is going to be his role in the town or whatever, like if that's where we're going to go with it, and build upon it beyond just, he needs to find the bodies at the end.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, it was just a little bit underwhelming, like you say. That's the perfect word for it, in terms of what that built up to.
But I think it's almost a little bit of a compliment, though, to say that, we expected more because we enjoyed, what went on before.
Yeah, yeah. Especially since, because every time we saw Ray on his own when he wasn't killing someone, he had like the, I don't know, a religious like channel playing or something. It was always like it was always programs about the Pope or the Bible or talking about Satan and things like that. And I thought they were building to more because it kept pushing it into the movie. It kept saying, look, there's this battle of good and evil going on, and the devil isn't what you think he is. He's not the cartoon character from movies. There's even a shot of Tim Curry from Legend. Was that a movie it was called? I think it was.
Yeah, that Tom Cruise.
Yeah, Tom Cruise. Yeah. There's even a picture because it shows you some different cartoon images and it shows you that. And I was like, oh, Tim Curry! They stuck Tim Curry in the movie. I wonder how much they paid for that image. But maybe we should have spent more on the fire at the end of the movie rather than paying for the image of Tim Curry. Because obviously at the end of the movie,
PS2 level looking fire.
It was because obviously he gets shot, and then you hear the shot, and again, this was all great stuff where you hear the second shot, and you think, oh, is the wife dead? Is she dead? Is Astrid dead? And then you see her crawling out and it sits there for a good several seconds where you think, are they both dead? Is this just it? But then she crawls out the closet. She crawls out the closet where she was hiding, and she's okay, but he's still unconscious. But that's all great suspense. And then he comes back in with a gun, which he's got off the cops, and he's about to shoot her. And I knew it wasn't going to fire. I knew it was going to be empty because he'd been firing bullets willy-nilly before now. But that was all good stuff. All this was great. But then it kind of gets ruined because we see them buy like gas at the gas station, and he sets a ring of fire around the girl's bed, and he's got her in the bed, and then that's when the dad has to get up, climb in the window, and he's trying to save her. So this whole scene's playing out where they're fighting, and then the dad bashes him with a guitar, and she has to jump over the fire to get to him, and all of it's meant to be like this big climactic. This is the final fight. They're in fire. It's the fight of hell. Like he's fighting a soldier of hell in fire. It's very biblical, and it's a great idea. It's a fantastic idea. The problem is the fire looks like absolute shit. It looks really fake, and I think what was bothering me is not the shots where the fire was actually visible. It was the shots where it wasn't visible, because they kept doing this thing where most of the scene was close-ups of their faces, and it was just lots of the glow, and you'd see like a little flicker at the corner of the screen, and it just felt so fake. Whereas at least when it was like all in the back of the frame, it was like, well, at least, I mean, it's fake, but they're not hiding it. Whereas every time it went to a close-up of a face, it felt like they were doing their best to hide it as much as they could, and it took me out of the scene more than the actual fakeness of the fire did. So
now, let me ask you a question. I don't know if I wasn't looking in the right spot or if I was thinking about it too hard, but I kept trying to see if there was like something in the fire, because I kept like expecting to see like an outline of like Satan or something in it.
No, there wasn't anything like that. At one point, Ray says to her, he's there, and that's when I was expecting to see something. The only time you see something is when Ray gets set on fire, and he's walking through it, and he kind of burns in this weird way that leaves his like eyes turning yellow, so he kind of looks satanic as he's dying. But there was no like other thing. I didn't notice anything, certainly.
All right, I was just wondering because I don't have the best computer, and it's staying lighter out today, so I watched it with some like light coming in. So I don't know if maybe there was like a little spot I missed or.
No,
Alright,
I don't think so. It's funny you mentioned that though, because even I was watching it in the dark, and
yeah.
honestly, it was still felt like a bit dark at times. Where not in the daytime scenes, but at the nighttime scenes, it felt like they'd maybe just had the brightness down just a bit too much. It was kind of hard to see things. I can imagine watching this on under light conditions. In fact, I started watching it with some light, and I actually turned all the lights off because I was getting it was getting too hard to see things whenever it was a night scene, and my reflection was just like coming back at me. It was kind of rough. So I guess that's a flaw.
Another thing I would bring up, just a lot of I like the way a lot of stuff looked like when he was doing the painting. I like kind of like the frenetic shots of him like scraping.
Yeah, did you like when it was cutting between him painting and Ray was like cleaning up his blood from his victim and his body, and it was like cutting from the red paint to the red blood. That was kind of cool.
That was really cool. Yeah. And then like when you were talking about when like Astra was getting back up and crawling, I like his like willingness to kind of just like let the camera just like stay still, and I don't know, I feel like he has these very it probably seems like kind of an easier thing, but I don't know, I feel like it kind of stood out to me.
It feels like an easier thing from the point of you don't have to like block out more shots, but it's actually more difficult in making it a good looking scene, because edits let you hide a lot of things. Like if one part of like, if an actor says a line, or maybe it gives like a really good scene, like a really good take, but there's one bit in the middle that wasn't very good, so you cut around it. Like editing lets you fix all these little things, and so to do an entire thing in one shot like that means that they probably did a lot of takes because they had to perfect it and they had to get it all done in one perfect shot, because they can't hide it, they can't cut away, they can't do any patching, so it's easier in the sense that you're not setting up more shots, but it's harder in the sense where you're probably redoing the same shot a lot, and so it's give and take, I guess, is what I say.
I also usually find it impressive too when people are willing to do that. I feel like people overcompensate a lot, and like they want to be like, oh, I want to be all fancy and like show it up like from the bottom, pan up, and don't tilt up, whatever.
Yeah, I like a good winner. Sometimes when it's moving, sometimes when it's staying still. Do you know what's the scene I liked in this in terms of that? In terms of just keeping the camera back. There was a scene where...
I think... Oh, wait. Can I guess? Because it's another one that I really like.
Okay, sure.
I'll see if it's the same one. When he's doing all that painting and he realizes he forgot to pick up the girl, so then it just like cuts to him like running out in the field.
And no, it's actually, he is going to pick up the girl. It's after he has the meeting with the art dealer, which we're going to talk about in a minute, actually.
Oh, right.
But it's when he's like, so he's already been late once to pick her up at school, and she was pissed at him for it. And this is when he's late this time, she's been kidnapped by Ray. So he's going to feel really pissed. Right. But it's when he's driving, and the car, the tire blows out.
Oh, yeah.
And the car starts like swerving down, and there's a car behind him trying to get past him, and it keeps almost hitting him. But we don't cut between shots, we don't go inside the car, camera just stays down the road. It's just looking up the road, nice and wide, and you just see everything happen in the shot. It's nothing but stunt work. There's no, at least as far as I can tell, there was no CG or anything like that. It was just all in one take, one shot, just some fairly simple stunt work as well. It wasn't like super elaborate, but like most people who drive couldn't do that, like, and make it look like that. But it was kept all in one shot. It felt like a real thing because the other car was very awkwardly trying to get around him and not hit him, and it felt very authentic, and I like that. That's something that keeping the camera on one shot can do, is that because cuts are kind of fake. Cuts are something that don't happen in real life. So every time there's a cut, it kind of takes you out of the movie, and that's a very extreme way of putting it, because obviously you edit movies and you have to edit movies, but by having something all in one shot, it keeps it feeling just that little bit more real. So when you can do that and it looks all real and authentic like that, it all adds to the thing. But what I liked about that as well is at the end of that scene when the car properly stops, you can just see him like getting angry and like almost headbanging in the car as he's getting pissed, and then he gets out and starts running, and that's when the shot changes. But I liked that though. So there's some really good directing touches throughout. Another thing I really liked was every time Ray came to the door, there's like a red, like the stained glass, and it's like a red cross, and it's like that wavy stained glass. and
Oh, right.
you can see like his like fat, because he's a really fat guy, really fat red figure like through the red glass
Yeah.
every time, and it just looked really demonic and like evil. And it just every time I get a shot looking through that stained red glass, it looked great.
Yeah, that was really cool. And another one, I kind of, I feel like I was flip flopping a little bit between being like, I don't know if this is cheesy, but I kind of like the way it looks. Is when he's
Who?
like, oh, sorry, Jesse is
Jesse.
yeah, he's like explaining to his wife like what's going on with the painting, and you just see he's all like silhouetted with the painting in the background.
Yeah. Oh no, I like that too. I like that too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, there's like a lot of little touches like that that I felt like definitely kept it from being more boring.
Do you know what I think it is? I think this is a movie with a good director that needed maybe another couple of redrafts of the script to
That
tighten it up and make it, and or not even tighten it up, kind of the opposite, expand on it a little bit. You've got a good core here, but you maybe needed a couple of more drafts to try and expand the core ideas a little bit, to just give it a little bit more depth, and that would have really sealed the deal. Whereas as it is right now, it's like, oh, there's a really well directed movie, there's some really great sequences, but the overall ideas feel a bit thin.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. At the end of the movie, I kind of thought, I would love to see, something else that this guy directs, but maybe not necessarily something he's written.
I don't know if he wrote this, did he?
I think he did. I could be wrong.
I don't know. You're right. He did.
But yeah, I thought it might be interesting to see either him doing someone else's script, or maybe him doing something that someone co-writes or someone else is on board.
Yeah, I think it's worth seeing. It's just a shame that a couple of things hold it back, and the things that are kind of central to the overall movie, which is a shame, because there was some solid ideas and definitely some solid execution of scenes.
Yeah.
The other thing we've not really spoken about is the art dealer, who seemed like it was intentionally keeping him from picking up his daughter, which was making and because of the way every time it like cut to the receptionist at the art dealer when she's on the phone, and it was like a close up of her mouth, and she's all dressed in red, and she's proper like satanic looking.
Yeah.
And when I say satanic, I don't mean in like an occult way. Satanic in a cartoony, everything's red kind of way.
Yeah.
And it felt like this art dealer was also a soldier for Satan kind of thing.
Yeah, they felt a little over the top, and especially in a way that's, if it's like you said, it's weird because it feels like they're intentionally trying to keep him from picking up his daughter. But I also don't understand, like, if this is a really, really big important thing, like, why you couldn't arrange.
Well, like I'm getting at though, like as in they're soldiers of Satan, they're keeping from his daughter, but they're keeping him from his daughter with an offer, with like here, give your daughter to Satan, and you will get this nice new job with this new art gallery, and you'll be rewarded. Because remember, the art dealer even leans in and says, "Oh, you have to start enjoying things, and nothing worth having comes without sacrifice, and any toast to sacrifice." Like it feels very intentional that he is representing Satan, and he is saying, like, if you let your daughter be killed, you will be very prosperous. You will have the riches of the Dark Lord, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it just, it's something we say on this podcast a lot, but the art world is evil. We all know this. They all worship Satan.
I thought you legitimately were going to say something that we always say in this podcast. I didn't realize you were just going to make up something. But like I say, I think that's like okay idea. Like this idea that he's been tempted into this, and it's like for financial gain, it's for riches, it's for physical benefits. Mm-hmm. But again, much like the core whispers and like him hearing the voice of God, it's just a bit thin. It's like it feels like the start of an idea, but they've not developed it enough, and so yeah. So the scripts needs more work. The script needs another couple of drafts to expand upon it and maybe explore the ideas a bit more. But the direction, the actual execution is very good, except from that CG fire, which completely lets down the final confrontation, which is a shame. But there you go. Let's get to ratings, Timmy.
All right. I was thinking about a 6, but I'm gonna actually bump it up to a 6.5 because there's a really cool goat in it.
I thought you were going to say, oh, since we've been talking about it and you've pointed out a lot of the directing things, I'm going to up it a little bit, but no, it's because there's a goat. Because goat was once again used as a form of satanic imagery. Okay, cool.
Get a little goat bump.
Yeah, I feel like a 6.5 is kind of about the right thing. I'd maybe be tempted to stretch it to a 7.
Yeah, I can see that.
Maybe it's hard. Because it's a conflicting film. It's kind of a film I saw it and I liked a lot of it, but the core things that are kind of underwhelming about it are a shame, and they kind of do draw back. So I think I'll stick with a 6.5, but not because there's a goat. I want to make that clear. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Yeah.
All right, you good?
I think overall though we're pretty positive on it. Like sometimes it sucks in these cases where you feel like you're overly negative. It's hard because if something's like, you know, overly great, then you're gonna be all, you know, rah 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 about it. And if something is very clearly awful garbage, you know, you're gonna piss all over it. But then when you get stuff like that, that's, you know, in the middle, or, you know, even a little bit above the middle, you know, sometimes it's hard to talk about all the flaws without sounding like you're ragging on it. But I think overall it is pretty positive.
Yeah, we had a lot of positive points as well. It's just the negative points are just so kind of, they cover the whole movie, whereas it'd be one thing if one or two scenes were really bad but we liked the rest of the film, but it's like, nah, the core things are underdeveloped, and that it leaves you feeling kind of underwhelmed, even though there was a lot of really good scenes and a lot of good execution throughout, and actual executions of children, which were also delightful. Because that shot when he's like killing a kid in a swing, and the kid just comes back in the swing, and he's got the rock ready, and he's just like, and you don't see the impact. It cuts away, but it doesn't matter. Like you feel it in your heart.
Yeah.
So good direction. So that'd be my main thing. Yeah, so there you go. That's The Devil's Candy. We will be back sooner than you think. We have a bonus episode planned that will begin up on April 1st. I will not give you any points for guessing what movie it'll be, because it's kind of obvious, but there will be
Plus,
a bonus.
I already know it.
Like you, I'm talking to the audience.
Oh.
I know you know. I told you what it is. So there'll be a bonus movie on April 1st. Yeah, there'll be no bonus points for guessing what it is, but I'm not telling you. I'm gonna let it just sit there. But you can have that. We've got more movies planned, of course, in the coming weeks, so you can look forward to those. Some more, another batch of like these VOD movies have started making their rounds with the people. I've been seeing reviews for other things. We have something planned for next week, which sounds like it could be very interesting. Or maybe it'll be like this, and we'll be like, it had good parts, had bad parts. We'll see. I'll just tell them what it is. Tell them what the next movie is. Not the April 1st one. They're not getting that from me. But we'll tell them what next week's movie is.
Okay.
It's a movie called Prevenge.
Ooh.
Which is about a pregnant woman who goes on a killing spree. This sounds amazing. Hopefully it's as good as it sounds. But that's what's coming. Not the next one. We'll get a bonus one on April 1st. But the next regular episode next week will be Prevenge. So look forward to that. Let us know what you thought of this movie. If you've seen it, in the comments below, like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. You can get our individual Twitters. I'm at Wibble89. Tim's at Tim Vergulish for everyday ramblings from us. But that's us, guys. Thanks for watching. Keep watching scary movies. We'll see you next time.